Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mooney and I want to thank you for joining me today. So this is another episode in our franchise wars. We're counting down this is the third volume, so we're counting down the third entries from the big four. Here we go. Alright, so third entries from the big four. Halloween 3 is my number 4 on this one. If you saw my worst of the series ranking, if you haven't, please watch that. For me, this is the worst of these three movies. It is the worst of the Halloween series for me. And I'll tell the story again. I've told it in the other video, but I'll tell it again. 1984 or so, I know it came out in the theater. I think it came out in the video store in 85. But anyway, around that time I was just starting to get into horror. I had already seen the first two of the Friday the 13th, the first Chainsaw, a couple of other things that were out at the time. And I kept hearing from friends that Halloween was so much better than the others. I hadn't seen any of them yet. Didn't know it was a slasher. I didn't know Michael Myers from Adam. You know, I didn't know any of that stuff. I just kept being told that Halloween was the best franchise that there was. I had to see them. Went to rent them. The first one, the second one was both rented out every time I went. So I rented the third one expecting this to be so much better than all the other horror movies that I had seen at the time. And I was sadly disappointed at the time. I have watched it many times since. I still don't enjoy this movie. I think Tom Atkins does a good job. But as far as the rest of the movie goes, the villain is laughable. The storyline is confused. It doesn't know if it wants to be horror, if it wants to be sci-fi. Yeah, just no. This one is bottom of the barrel for me for the franchise, and it is definitely bottom of the barrel for me for the third entries in these series. So let's move on to number 3. Alright, so number 3 on the third entry of the franchise for me is going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 Leatherface. So the second one and first one are what they are. The third one, New Line Cinema picked it up and decided that they wanted to do a part 3 to it, and they basically made a generic slasher out of it. There's not a whole lot to this one that feels like what the original did. It doesn't even feel like what the second one did. There's some humor in it, but not much. It's darker in tone as far as the lighting goes and as far as the cinematography goes. There are some fun moments in it with the family. But as far as it goes, it's just a generic slasher. So it's number 3 on my list because generally I find it fairly boring. Although that big chrome saw is cool as fuck. Number 2. Alright, so our next entry, number 2 on my list for this one, is Friday the 13th Part 3. I love the Friday the 13th series, and I really enjoyed this one. It's not as good as the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, but it's leaps and bounds above the other two on this list. Halloween 3 sucks ass. Pure and simple. It's a crap movie. TCM 3 is boring. So the next one on our list is definitely Friday the 13th Part 3. It has some issues. It's shot in 3D, so shit comes at the camera. That's annoying. One thing I do like about it is that a lot of people don't like is Shelly. I really like the character of Shelly. He can be a little bit annoying at first and a little bit grating at first, but when you have those quieter moments with him where he explains why he's the way he is and that, it really makes the first part of those kind of forgivable. Afterwards, not so much. The last one's kind of but it was just there to set up the Jason kill, so I don't overlook the last one, but I kind of do. You know, so the odd cinematography, the odd lighting because of the 3D, those are drawbacks to it, but forward from there, I like all the characters in it, especially the hippie couple. They're great. It is kind of odd that it happens on the next day after part 2. I like that since they killed off Crazy Ralph in part 2, they had a different Harbinger in this one. So, you know, the old guy laying in the road. And of course, then they kind of somewhat take that into a bad way when he sticks the eyeball at the camera. But, you know, there's 2 eyeball gags in this one. He sticks it out, and then when he squeezes the one dude's head and it pops out of him. And you can, and of course, you know, in the older VHS days, that was a pretty cool effect, even without the 3D on it. Now, in HD, you can see the string. The spear gun kill's an awesome kill. Unfortunately, in HD, you can see the string. So, you know, technology kind of has left this movie behind, but I love it. Jason gets the iconic mask. Like I said, all the characters I really like. So yeah, it's number 2 on this list, but it's definitely pretty high up in my franchise ranking. If I was doing just the Friday franchise. Alright, so y'all know what number 1 is. Let's get to it. Alright, so number 1 on my list on this one is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors. So, since I'm not ranking the franchises separately, I'll go ahead and tell you that this is my favorite of the Nightmare on Elm Street series. From here on out, it's a downhill slope. This one is honestly my favorite. It really is. Nancy's character arc is wonderful. The way that she went from being the every girl at the beginning of the first one through to the final girl at the end, being resourceful and all of that she did at the end of the first one, coming back for this one. She kind of goes through the same character arc again. She starts off kind of, you know, kind of meek, and granted she is coming into a new place to work and all of that, but so by the end of it, not only does she become really strong, but completely willing to sacrifice herself, to, you know, sacrifice herself to save the kids. She definitely puts them first before herself, and you really gotta love that about a character like that. I like the doctor in it. I don't hate the nurse. I know a lot of people hate the lead nurse in it, but she's doing her job. She's doing what she thinks is right. She doesn't understand, you know, kind of thing. But I don't hate her. And I think she's portrayed very well by the actress. It was really nice to see John Saxon come back as Nancy's father. He has a really nice character arc again, going from the beaten down alcoholic to, again, at the end, sacrificing himself. All the kids in it, of course, are wonderful. Have always loved the punk rock girl and the kid in the wheelchair with the Dungeons and Dragons thing. I've always liked them. It was nice to see the way that these characters came together. I really like that. The snake thing, yeah, it's a little bit phallic, but whatever. Chalk it up to the 80s, I guess. But for me, this is by far the best of the Nightmare franchise. The cinematography is wonderful. The set dressing is great. Some of the effects don't hold up. It's not as bad as Friday 3 because it wasn't in 3D, but the effects, some of them don't hold up, but 90% of them do. The marionette face that becomes Freddy, yeah, the claymation on that looks a bit dated. The superimposing him when he's marionetting the kid that jumps off, yeah, it's not as good as what it would be now. I guess it's a forerunner of CGI, and it wasn't very good with it. But really, those are few and far between in this movie. The mirror effect, the mirror hall, considering that was shot practically and not, you know, you got all those shots of the real mirror with that without getting the camera or crew into it. That is so well done. The music to it is taking that score from the original and tweaking it just a touch and updating it just a touch, and it really does very good. It really comes off even more Carpenter-ish than the original score did. Which, when you're talking about an iconic score, is not necessarily a bad thing when it comes out sounding very, very John Carpenter-ish. So really and truly, this is one of my favorites in general. And this is by far my favorite in the franchise, and definitely my favorite on this list. So that's my list for the number 3 entry on this one. As always, I have links down in the description below. My Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, Teespring links. If you're wanting to support the channel, I would very much appreciate that if you do. I have the Full Moon logo as well as the Alabama Vape Mob logo. Both of those are on the Teespring, and there is going to be some horror content coming soon on there. So yeah, y'all hit up my links. Y'all check that out. And advocacy links. My fiance has a Vinted account. If you would like to pick something up from there, just tell her Mooney sent you. She'll know what you mean. And yeah, as always, be safe, be good, and y'all have a good one.